So good morning, everybody. This is the second day of our webinar on plastic recycling together with UNIFO. I hope you had a very interesting day yesterday. And Ksenia, can you put on the slide with the agenda? You had a very good day yesterday and had time to process everything that we heard yesterday. And today we're going to dive deeper into the topic of recycling, the various types of recycling. We're also going to talk about material using recycled content. We're going to touch upon recycled PP, recycled PET. We're going to talk about washing, about de-inking. So a lot of interesting, novel information for you today. And what better day to start off with an Israeli innovator. We heard a little bit about chemical recycling yesterday, but now we have the opportunity to hear from the real experts here in Israel, and that's Claritel. And I'm very happy to welcome Ran Sharon, who is the president and CEO of Claritel and a member of various of our working groups in various functions. Ran, good to see you. Good morning.
Hi, how are you, Avi? Let me just see if I can believe that I can share. Is this the one? For some reason. I don't know why you're not able to see my presentation.
Maybe Ksenia can help. Ksenia, can you put up Claritel's presentation? Might take a minute.
Yeah, because for some reason it does not allow me to upload mine.
Okay, so while we upload yours, would you be able to start without it?
Sure. I will do it in short, and thank you guys for helping me with the audio. So we'll talk a little bit about Claritel, but what Claritel does, and I wanted to touch the word of chemical recycling or what we call chemical upcycling. So maybe if we go to the first slide, and sorry guys that. Okay, so for decades we were having, the world was seeing issues with regards to the dependency of crude and volatility of crude pricing and demand and supply. We saw also the problems of plastic waste, and this is when Claritel started about 16, 17 years ago. And what happened today with the world of pandemic? I mean, we could see that plastic waste, it is a global pandemic as well. We see the dependency on crude and the stress that comes from all over the market to find alternatives or to find different means to provide both energy and products. We also see the issues of social unrest and the demand to create works and mid-sized enterprises, etc., etc. And this was the situation where Claritel started, as I said, years ago. But not to our surprise, but to the sadness, I would say, we could see that the same problems also exist today. If we can move to the next slide, I'll tell you. So what is Claritel's solution? So Claritel's solution is, in a nutshell, we transform plastic waste that no one wants into products that everybody needs. Now, that's also the DNA of Claritel. We do like to, whenever people say, oh, we don't see a use for that, we always say, oh, okay, we see a use for that. So our DNA started with our technology, but also on the way that we operate today. Now, if we can move to the next slide, I will explain a bit, I think yesterday we covered a bit the world of recycling and chemical recycling. And, there are various ways of how to handle plastic waste or different types of plastic, from reduce, reuse, etc. But let's focus on the recycling part. In the recycling part, for years, we could find mechanical recycling. Now, usually mechanical recycling will separate the different types of plastics and then the different colors and the different shades and frames, etc., etc. And this mechanical recycling still exists. in addition, over the years, but we could see that mechanical recycling from one side could not handle all plastics and all types and forms of plastics. And there were new developments with regard to handling in other manners. And then came the world of chemical recycling. And in the chemical recycling, we could see that most of players are going towards plastic to new plastic or plastic to energy, fuel, and slash, let's call it a intermediate products. What Clariter does, and this is differentiating us between all the other players in the chemical recyclers, we actually consider ourselves chemical upcyclers, because it's not that we take the plastic waste and we turn it into new plastic or into an intermediate product. We move the plastic and we transform it into advanced products that I'll touch on them a couple of minutes from now. We simply look as a concept. You take something with a low value or a negative value, and can you transform it to something which is also desired with a high value? Can we move to the next slide? Okay, so Clariter's raw material is a mix of mainly a product called polyolefins. It's for the layman terms, think about your plastic bags and think about your containers, let's say your shampoo bottles. We do not care about colors. We do not care about if it's rigid or it's flex. We do not care about the mix of types. There are a couple of types that we are avoiding, which is usually the PET and PVC. I would say that PET and PVC, PET is the soft drinks bottles, and PVC you can mostly find in the industrial waste or construction waste. But our types is a mix of it. And usually when we look at the market, we say, okay, after the mechanical recyclers are taking their plastics with all the leftover, that usually ends up in incinerations or landfilling or even in the ocean, can we transform it? And this is what we do. So this is our raw material, a mix of plastics. If we will move to the next slide, we will see the way that we handle. So as I said, we handle our feedstock is most of plastics. When I say most of plastics, again, it's mainly the family of polyolefins, which combine polyethylene and polypropylene, and some polystyrene. It represents more than 60% of total plastics and a vast majority of municipal plastic waste. It goes into our system, and our system, think about us as a small refinery. We are a chemical company, and the way that we do the first stage is where we melt the plastics, we put it via our systems. Then the plastic is being also cracked in relatively high temperatures, but not too high. We crack it in a unique manner in order to keep the hydrocarbon chains that we are looking for. Think about from a solid plastic, it turns into I would say a dark or light dark mass that looks and smells like a light crude. After the cracking process, we do various hydrogenation process. So we do hydrotreating, where with injections of hydrogens and also with some unique catalysts that we have, this is where we take the various impurities. So we take the double bonds, we take the colors, we take the other impurities like sulfur out. And as a result of this, our products comes with without any contaminants. We move later on to a separation and distillation processes, where at the end, we have 3 families of products. If we can move for the next slide. Thank you. Just to understand, this technology was developed, as I said, for 17 years, more or less, and we have invested in R&D about 40 million euros so far. We have a small pilot, which is located in Poland, and we have also an industrial scale facility. You can see the picture of it, which is located in South Africa, in East London, South Africa, very close to the sea, as you can see in the picture. If you think about the pilot is a large lab, and if you think about an ISP, so an ISP is a small facility. It is an industrial facility. We make everything on site. We make our own hydrogen, and we make nitrogen, and we make the entire process from throwing the plastic inside until getting our oil solvents and waxes outside. We do it just not in a commercial purpose. This facility is meant in order to create sampling, in order to do testing, in order to make demonstrations and train also our facilities. And I'll talk in a second about where we are going now. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about our product. So I would mention that we have three families of product: the oil family, the solvent family, and the wax family. Now, our oils, don't think about it as a carve of oil, or lubricating oil. It can be used as well, but think about this as a mineral white oil that you can find it in so many applications. You can find it from as a lubricating stuff to a lubricating material for bakeries. You can find it also in a baby oil, which is a mineral white oil, and you can find it in tons of other applications. And if you look at our solvent, once again, it will be very pure. It will look like water. There will be no color. There will be almost no smell. And again, you can find all of them in various applications. We will touch it in a second. Our last family of product is the wax family. It's what is called snow white waxes. And again, when I'm talking about families, from that we can break it into more narrow products. And the narrow products usually will be products that will be suitable more to a specific industry or for a specific use. Let's move next. Now, as I said, there are more than 1,000 applications that can be made by our products. And usually our product will leave the base or the carrier for a blender. And I just want to mention also that our products stands are at FDA standards, and that's why from a purity point of view and quality point of view, they're on a very high level. But you can find them from industrial degreasers, you can find them in shoe polish, you can find them in creams, you can find them even in a we all remember the turtle wax for cars, etc., etc. Next slide, please. An important stuff, by using Clariter's technology, again, transforming the unwanted plastic waste and moving it into products that are usually coming from, or always comes from crude, we're actually having a negative carbon footprint. We recently made a life cycle analysis with a company called C-Delf, and they analyzed the entire spectrum. They looked at using Clariter versus the situation in the market, and we are one of the unique ones that are able to show a negative carbon footprint for applying our technology. A Clariter facility handles around 60,000 tons of plastic waste per annum. It is making around 50,000 tons of products, the total 3 families of products. Our products, when they are checked by the market, from a chemical point of view, they are identical or sometimes even better to the products that are coming from crude. And one of the most important things, when you use Clariter, you actually provide the end of life of plastic. So after Clariter, there is no microplastics or leftover the plastics that can still pollute the environment. And all of these factors together create a negative carbon footprint. Next slide, please. Let's talk, we talked yesterday a little bit about circular economy as well. And I just want to give you a couple of cool examples that we were doing. One of them, we were approached by an NGO that is very much concerned with plastics from the ocean. And they asked, can you do something with the plastic in the ocean? And we said, you know what, give us the most challenging plastics. And they gave us types of a mix of plastics and fishing nets, etc. And they told us, what can you do with that? And I'll tell you the cool stuff that what we could do with that, we could create surf wax that are used by surfers. So this NGO, I forgot to mention, is actually using surfers to help them to collect the plastic in the ocean. And we made from them a surf wax. Now, it's not exactly a circular economy, but it's quite cool. I will give the following other example. Think about your kitchen oil degreaser. I mean, when you need to clean your kitchen, it comes usually in a plastic container. This plastic container, inside there are active ingredients that decrease, and there are also a type of a solvent, and this is something we do. Think about that container from plastic ending up in Clariter, and we convert it to a solvent that later on is used inside another container. So we do create a situation where by using Clariter, you are able to decrease your dependency on crude from one side. So there is no need to buy a new solvent for clean material. And on the other hand, you are ending the life of the plastic container. One of the examples is we work with, we currently do some R&D and work with one of the largest global groups that handles printing. And we were taking their plastic containers where the ink is there. And these plastic containers we were putting through our system, and we converted them to solvents, oils, and waxes. And funny, one of the products is now we are tailoring this to be a carrier for the color that will be inside the new ink containers. So again, the container is turning into the product that's inside, and like this, by using, we are decreasing the dependency on crude, and we are also ending the life of plastic. And there are various other examples, more and more. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our journey. So we started in a small lab in 2003. Actually, I'm not a chemist by profession, but I was addressed, I'm a serial entrepreneur. What I knew is how to take crazy concepts and move them and create companies out of them. And I met Professor Andrzej Bilicki. And Andrzej came and he said to me that he is able to take plastic and turn it into mineral oil. I didn't know what's a mineral oil. And he said, you know what, for simplicity, you will know it as a baby oil. And this is blew my mind. It was not from the environmental point of view. It actually came from the concept I can handle plastic waste and turn it into an advanced product. So a disruptiveness in the industry, this is what kicked me. And we created Clariter. This is how we started in 2006. As I said, we made our first pilot in Poland. This pilot works till today. It made more than 13 alterations. So whenever we reached a certain level that we said it's good enough, we actually made it better and better and better. So that's one of the journeys, and probably the pilot in Gliwice will continue to work for many years because it is a great testing ground. When we got the right data, we said it's time to move up and scale. And we built a 15,000 square meter facility in South Africa. If you will visit our website, you can see a couple of pictures of it and a nice movie that will show the magnitude. But in principle, what we decided, we made a greenfield. We said, let's create all the utility, everything that it's needed, again, from the hydrogen to the nitrogen, to the demineralized water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let's have the entire process. This facility works 24/7, 365 days a year. And it's producing various types of products. And we do currently a lot of global initiatives with many potential customers of ours and partners, et cetera, et cetera. In 2021, we said it's about time to go to our global rollout. And currently we have been working on Poland, Israel, and the Netherlands as our next locations. We have team deployed in each and every one of the countries. We needed to understand the entire ecosystem for Clariter. So from the supplier of raw material until what do we do with the products. And we understood in some elements, it's not just to come and build and let's call someone who will supply raw material, but we do need to understand the entire supply chain of from trash to raw material. So from, let's say, general trash for Clariter to raw material. We can use industrial plastic waste, we can use a post-consumer plastic waste, and we can use also agricultural plastics and plastic from the ocean. In addition to this one, we are now teaming up with a couple of global industrial players, and what we are what we are offering them is, from one side, we're asking them to join Clarity on the holding level, but in addition, and this is the key, we are planning to develop with them facilities throughout the world. Recently, and it was announced, we teamed up with a company called ACI, which is a multinational company that is dealing with various types of chemicals, and with them, we are exploring a possibility to build Clarity facilities in Germany and in some parts of the US. And that's where we are.
Thanks, Ron. We have 1 minute, although it seems like you finished.
I think I did.
Couple of questions that we might be able to fit in that minute. First, we are asked, there's a question from Noel. How do you deal with multi-layer plastics and laminated plastics?
Okay, so we can handle, let's take, for example, one of the types of plastic is a plastic called BOPP, which is for, let's imagine, you know, the snacks bags that my kids love so much, and there are traces of metals inside. No issue for Clarity. What happens, my vast majority is plastics, and the additives are falling into our residue. We do use our residue as well. It is either used for internal energy for us, but we also we develop an application, and we're working on application together with ACI that our residue will go into an asphalt mix. So all the additives and others, no issue. We also work with very complicated types of plastics. We work with DSM Dyneema from the Netherlands on some of the ultra high definition molecular plastics that are complicated to handle. We are able to handle it. The ones we are avoiding is mainly PET and PVC.
Great. Another question, thanks. Another question is about waste that is mixed with organic waste, like agricultural plastic waste.
So we are trying to avoid as much as we can everything which is non-plastic, so even organic. It will not affect our system, but from a piece of cucumber, I cannot make wax. So it is better for us to handle it before it goes into the system. If it goes, no big deal, but again, the yield will not be what we want to. And it's better also to handle it before.
Perfect. Thanks. I want to use this opportunity to mention that you have a challenge on our Circular Solutions platform that handles one of those issues, how to sort the waste before it reaches you. So if anybody has a solution, you're welcome to log on to Circular Solutions, COAL, check out Clarity's challenge and submit a solution, maybe even win an award. Ron, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck for everybody. Interesting days.
Great, thanks a lot. And you mentioned your solution on ink, and that's a good segue to talk about what do we do with ink on the plastic waste. And so I'm really happy to invite Michal Polchaska. He's the managing director of KeyCycle, which is part of the Arema Plastic Machinery Group, to talk about de-inking and what do we do with the ink on the plastic waste. Michal, hello, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here and to present our technology.
Fabulous.
Okay, so let me start. Do you want to run the presentation, or do you want me to share?
Ideally, if there are technical difficulties, we do it.
Okay, let me do that. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it in draft mode. If you can.
All right, now it should work.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so again, good morning. My name is Michal Polchaska. I'm the managing director of KeyCycle, which is a part of Arema Group, which is one of the leading companies in plastic recycling since more than 37 years. Our main business at KeyCycle is, let's say, being a provider of turnkey plants, turnkey recycling solution at the whole along the whole process of plastic recycling. And since last year, we have a new product, which is a very interesting one, a new technology, which is aiming the removal of inks from the surface of plastics. This technology has been developed by Cadel de Inking in Spain a few years ago, and since beginning of this year, since last year, we are lucky to have this product in our portfolio, as we have an exclusive cooperation with Cadel on the commercialization and further development of this technology. So let me explain you a little bit more about it. We have developed this technology for converters, for producers of plastics, plastic film and plastic packagings who use printing on the surface of the plastic, who typically have some 8 or 10% of internal scrap. What did they do with this scrap? Typically, they sell it to recyclers, and then the film or even the regrind is recycled together with the ink on it, which is something that is possible. You can pelletize this material, but at the end you get a kind of dark gray, black pellets that are mainly used for injection molding applications, stuff like this, or let's say low grade, very often low grade film like trash bags, films for buildings, civil engineering, and so on. Well, when we are talking about upcycling and circular economy in the future, we were thinking about how this process could be improved, and then the idea was born to try to remove the colors from the plastic, and in fact the inking technology was born. How does it work? We have developed a process with more or less 4 steps. So what you can see here is the input material that could be film, printed film, or even regrind. We shred the material in the first step, which gives us, let's say, the flexibility to process all types of possible input material. But clearly, our focus today are flexible packagings, film applications. The real first process step is the de-inking step, where the material gets in touch with the chemical cocktail. We get the interaction between the ink and the chemicals, and we get a certain friction between the plastic particles and the plastics and the chemical cocktail. And this is the step where most of the ink is removed from the plastics, and it goes into the process liquid. And then we go in the rinsing step, where more or less the plastics is washed by clean water. The main goal is to get rid of the rest of the ink and the rest of the chemicals we use in the process. And then typically, like in all other washing lines, the plastic fluff, the plastic flakes, or the regrind is dried before it's ready for regranulation. So when we are talking about the de-inking process, it's always 4 steps. It's grinding, de-inking, rinsing, and drying. And of course, as you can imagine, a very important part of this process is the water treatment system. Because what we do is removal of the ink from the plastic. We transfer the ink and the ink components into the process liquid. And in a certain step, we need to separate the ink from the water, because we want to use the water in a closed loop in the whole process. So this is how it works. Of course, the end product should be, again, very bright or white granules that can be used for high quality applications again. So this is what you can see here is really what we can reach in most of the applications. So we have printed film at the beginning, even very, let's say, heavily printed film at the beginning when we are talking about typical multi-pack applications, and we are really able to reach inkless, very clean film, and at the end pellets at the end of the process. Typical applications we have today LDPE film white or transparent. This is today 80% of our projects, 80% of our applications, but we are also able to de-ink BOPP, PET films, as these are also applications that our customer come with. And what is the nice thing on this technology? We know that the technology is also working with rigid plastic, HDPE, PP, and we also have some first project aiming applications like PP or PS caps, yogurt caps, applications from the food industry. So really, this is a very universal application that can be used for many applications in the plastic industry, as long as the ink is applied on the surface of the plastics. So just let me know if you have any questions, or I can answer them at the end of my presentation.
So far there are no questions.
Okay. So this is how the typical de-inking line looks like. Let me explain again the steps. We have the grinder as a first step, which allows us to process all possible forms of material. We can process sheets, we can process rolls, or even loose material. The material is grinded and fed into the reactors. We typically use a setup of 2 de-inking reactors just to maintain the right throughput of the line and the right process parameters. What is important here, we don't use any synthetic solvents. So we have a very, let's say, environmental friendly process using water-based chemicals. We don't have the typical solvents, which makes the whole stuff easier from a health and safety point of view. We don't have any ethics issues and stuff like this. And of course, it makes the whole process easier when thinking about disposal of the sludge of the rest of the inks and the disposal of the process liquid as well. So we have the de-inking step here, which is a combination of the reactors and then centrifuges. Then the plastic is transported into the rinsing step. Again, typically 2 reactors, and the last step is the drying, which is typically a combination of a mechanical and thermal drying. Prior, the fluff is fed into a buffer silo and then into the pelletizing plant. You might ask me what a typical throughput or capacity of such a plant is. So today we have 5 plants at the market. All of them have a capacity or throughput of 500 kg per hour. So this is today the throughput our customers are happy with. But for sure, in the future, there will be a need for larger plants, because all of us know that the main source of the material and even of the colored material is the post-consumer material stream. So we are also working on larger plants that might be introduced to the market some next year. So I said, and this is my last slide here. We have today 5 plants sold and in operation or in a kind of ramp up stage. Most of them are in Europe. The last one is now under installation in France and in the US. The typical applications today are multi-pack applications, so heavily printed LDP film with a thickness somewhere between 40 and 70 microns. We also have applications like FFS packs, so low printed material. And we also use this technology, for example, for processing garment bags, supermarket film, where the main goal is, let's say, to remove the low content of print on this material, but the other challenge here are the paper labels on this film. So, as I said, very universal technology. We believe that has a great future at the market, because really we can go away from the processing of the heavily printed film, where the gray and black pellets are the end product, to let's say to very bright and white pellet that can be used in high quality applications in new film and stuff like this. So that's the end of my presentation. I would like to give you the chance to ask your questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Michal. There's a question from Elisa. She's asking if you can get food contact approved for the recyclates with the technology, or just if it's from food packaging.
Today, the process doesn't have any food contact approval, either from FDA or EFSA. We are working on this topic as a supplier, so to get a kind of validation for the particular process. And we know that some of our customers are on, let's say, a dedicated discussion with these institutions to get the end product validated for food grade applications.
Right. And a question from me, your business model, do you sell the equipment? Do you sell the technology, licensing, or do you offer it as a service perhaps?
We are technology providers, so we sell the technology, and that's a nice thing on let's say the new setup with Arima Group. We are either able to sell the de-inking technology as a standalone solution, or we integrate it in let's say turnkey solution in combination with a pelletizing plant and all around this process. So it's not a licensing model. We really sell the equipment and the technology. Yeah,
understood. Wonderful. Thanks a lot for this presentation.
Thank you.
That was the time slot that we have, and actually might be a surprise also for you, but we have a clip of that we were just sent by HP Indigo from Israel of a project that was done with Cadel and Dow and HP Indigo, I'm sure you're familiar with, that we would like to show and share with you. So thanks, Michal, and we now show you a clip of 5 minutes of an actual implementation of the technology. It's called Can a Pouch Be a Pouch Again?
Great. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Can a pouch be a pouch again? It all started with a challenge. Is it possible to create a closed loop for printed pouches? So we joined forces to demonstrate that appealing recyclable barrier pouches can be recycled into valuable pouches again. Let's start from the beginning. Project partner Reifenhauser produced a polyethylene-based barrier film on the highly flexible EVO 9-layer blown film line, which was able to produce Dow's resins most economically. Dow's innovative resins provide an outstanding stiffness-toughness balance, low temperature sealability, adhesion to extruded barrier layers, and excellent bubble stability. Digital printing has significant advantages when it comes to reducing the environmental impact. These pouches were surface printed on an HP Indigo 25K digital press, which is the only field-proven solution for digital flexible packaging. The co-extruded 9-layer polyethylene films are designed for recyclability, with up to 5% of EVOH in the total structure. But how are these pouches actually recycled? The printed pouches were sent to Cadel Recycling Partner for ink removal by means of de-inking technology. The first step is the grinding process, in which the materials are cut before entering the washing line. The printed plastic fluff then goes into the de-inking reactor, where 90% of the ink is removed using a solvent-free solution. In order to completely remove the ink, the fluff goes into a second stirred reactor. The fluff then goes into the rinsing step, where traces of reagents and inks are removed from the de-inked plastic fluff. Water treatment for de-inking and rinsed loop is carried out to recover reagents and water. As a result, clear fluff came out of the washing line to be converted to pellets in the pelletizer unit. The recyclates went through various quality testing steps at Dow's Pack Studios Tarragona to verify their suitability to be used on the industrial scale blown film line for producing recycled content films. A new 5-layer PE-based blown film was extruded in Pack Studios Tarragona, combining Dow's high-performance resins with 50% of the recycled material from the initial printed barrier pouches. In parallel, Reifenhauser produced a machine direction-oriented PE film on their new state-of-the-art blown film line, combining different Dow resins to achieve outstanding optics, stiffness, and planarity. The MDO PE film was then reverse printed on an HP Indigo 25K digital press and sent to Dow's Pack Studios Mosate for lamination to the film made in Pack Studios Tarragona.
The lamination process starts here, where the two components of the solvent less lithium are mixed together. Thanks to an automatic system of gap control, we are able to set the right coating weight that we want to apply on the primary film, here represented by the MDOP, digitally printed by HP Indigo. Once the adhesive is applied, then the primary film goes across the machine and is meeting with the secondary film, here represented by the recycled PE film, and the two films are laminated together in the mix station. The reel has been kept in our warehouse, and after 24 hours we tested the bond strength and we checked the aspect. As it's possible to say, they are both excellent. Now the reel is ready to be sent to Cargill for the pouch production.
And here, everything went really fast. At Carlville, the material has been converted at high speed into pre-made detergent pouches. The shiny pouches for dishwasher tablets have a reclosable zipper and feature excellent stiffness, gloss, and remarkable sealability. The final pouches look excellent and contain about 30% recycled resins. Since we worked with materials new to the team and machines, every partner's whole expertise was needed to enable smooth production. The result is clearly visible. A pouch can be a pouch again, and it is designed for recycling in the polyethylene stream again. This is how we stop the waste and close the loop. Hands-on collaboration was key to prove this closed-loop concept for printed pouches. Will you join us to meet the Green Deal? Contact us to find out.
So thank you, Michal. We might have the possibility to invite somebody from HP Indigo tomorrow at the last moment to present the solution.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michal. Our next presentation is on a topic of that is not so available in Israel, and that's food-grade recycled polypropylene in packaging. And we have a recording of Professor Edward Kosior. He had sent a recorded presentation, although he's available for questions right after the presentation. Professor Kosior is the founder and CEO of Nextec, which is an expert plastic consulting company based in the UK. And he himself is an innovator and an expert and one of the leading experts on plastics in the UK. And we had some fun yesterday with a clip and also the next clip. And we added automatic subtitles. So you will have subtitles on the clip. It might help you with hearing, but they might be a bit wrong because it's automatic. So have fun with that and hope that you enjoy the presentation. And if there are questions, then Professor Kosior is available right after for answering questions. Let's go with a recorded presentation.
Good morning. My name is Edward Kosior. I'm the Managing Director of Nextec Limited, and my presentation today in the webinar is the food-grade recycling of polypropylene in packaging. Just a few words about Nextec. We are a technical consultancy that specializes in the design of plastics recycling plants with a focus on food-grade recycling of those materials. We've developed technologies for PET, high-density polyethylene, and now polypropylene. We also act as a consultancy to many companies to assist them with their developments of more sustainable packaging and also the incorporation of recycled content back into their products. Today, the project we're talking about is called Next Loop, which is closing the loop on food-grade polypropylene, taking the packaging that's been put onto the market, used in food, and then recycling it back into new polypropylene packaging. Polypropylene is one of the biggest polymers that's used in packaging. There's of the order of 60 million tons being used right now, and it's growing at a fairly significant rate due to its versatility and because it can be used in many applications, because it can be virtually transparent, it is quite stiff and light, and it can be used in injection molding, extrusion, thermoforming and film. And this is why it's such a popular material. In Europe, we use 10 million tons of polypropylene each year, and this number is growing. And why is there a need for a program to close the loop on polypropylene? Well, primarily it's because we need to address the issue of the end of life of plastics, and to encourage us all to do this, governments globally are pushing this agenda. In Europe, there will be a state charge of €800 per tonne for packaging that does not have 30% recycled content, and in the United Kingdom, there will be £200 per tonne for packaging that doesn't have the 20% recycled content. So these are quite important initiatives that are pushing brand owners to put recycled content back into their packaging, but it's really a drive to make sure that we have a suitable end-of-life application for these materials, and closing the loop is one very important way of doing this. Brand owners globally have made commitments to reduce the end of life of packaging into strong, sustainable solutions. Many of them have set targets of 25, 30 and 50% by 2025, some even going further. Supermarkets equally are keen to close the loop on their packaging. They want to see the packaging they make being recycled back into useful products, and are opening the door to have recycled content in a wide range of the materials that they use. PET we know very well, but probably more polypropylene is used in the supermarkets, and they will need to be incorporated back into those programs. That's why we have the endorsement of the supermarkets to encourage the recycling of polypropylene back into a loop. Here is a list of the current participants in the Next Loop program. We have the whole supply chain there, from brand owners to converters to technology companies, universities. We have industry associations, and we have technology companies who are helping us with the phase of the recycling, and also the provision of some of the techniques we're using. We also have recycling companies in here as well. Okay, the Next Loop program is based on two technologies that have been developed over the last 8 years. The first one that was developed, in fact, was the decontamination technology, which we're calling Pristine. And this ensures that we can decontaminate the materials to a very high extent. But once we had developed the technology, we needed a way of separating food grade from non-food grade materials to make sure we comply with the European Food Standards Authority and US FDA in terms of having only food grade materials in the recycling stream. We call this technology polyprism, which is based on ultraviolet markers. The polyprism program can separate food from non-food at very high efficiencies. The application of a marker to a label that gets put onto the product, and I'm being very careful here. A lot of people think markers go into the resin. They don't. We don't touch the resin. We put it onto a label, and under ultraviolet light, the labels fluoresce. The machine can see this. All machines with visible detectors can see the wavelength of the fluorescence in the visible spectrum, and in one step we can achieve greater than 99% separation of the food from non-food materials. And if we go to a double step, we'll then get greater than 99.9%. This has been proven in large-scale, full-speed trials at the Tomra facility, where these materials have been fully tested and put through their paces. I'm going to show you this at work on a process, showing you exactly what this looks like. In this case, we were applying the polyprism sleeves to PET bottles, but the principle is exactly the same. We have two types of bottle with a fluorescent marker sleeve. One is red, one is blue. Here they're being mixed in with other post-consumer packaging that have no fluorescence. And in this case, we're targeting the two sleeves that have the fluorescent marker put on them. So we're just simply asking the machine to separate the fluorescent materials. And you can see here that we are able to demix the material with very high precision and remove only the packaging with the markers. This system allows us to be very confident that we can have food grade materials coming back for the next step, which is the recycling of the polypropylene back to a decontaminated state. This technology is very simple because it uses the existing machinery without extensive modification. We update the software and we add ultraviolet light as a source, and this can be done very promptly once we have the right machinery and everything ready. And we don't need to modify the machines to any great extent, and there are some new developments that we can potentially talk about where the machines will be fully marker ready. So these machines don't require new cameras, they don't require extra computing power, they simply require a light source which in the UV spectrum, and also a label that has the coded fluorescent marker on it. In the next step, where we've got the decontamination, this is actually quite important, because if you sort a package of material, you have to then decontaminate it. Sorting alone will not give you a food grade status, even if the packages were all food grade. And in our case, we've developed a very specific sequence of steps that can decontaminate the material in the melt and the solid state to remove low molecular weight and high molecular weight materials. Now, the data here in this table represents the data from a challenge test, and it shows the decontamination efficiency of the materials that have been put into a polymer deliberately as a way of measuring the efficiency of the decontamination test. And what we can see is we're getting decontamination rates of about 100% for the solvent. With the middle molecular weights, we're in the 99 plus area. And for the high molecular weights, we're in the range of 95 to 97. These are very high decontamination rates. And this, coupled with the low native contamination level of polypropylene, ensures that any materials that are in the polymer will be decontaminated and removed from the process. When we've looked at our materials after decontamination, looked at migration, we essentially get no migration of materials from the polymer into the food simulants. And in this case, it's 10% ethanol, and all the migrations were at the limit of detection. So this means they will meet EFSA and FDA requirements. And indeed, our data has been examined by Steptoe and Johnson, who looked at our technical results very carefully. And indeed, we looked at intensive extractions of the material, and they agreed that after looking at the extractions, that the process meets the requirements for EFSA and US FDA for direct food contact. Our project has been on foot for about 1 year, and we're working through the various stages you can see here in terms of our milestones. We are producing prototype materials for evaluation by brand owners and converters into packaging products, and we're developing the dossiers for EFSA and US FDA, and we will then start to create new materials for specific products that brand owners will have. so they can trial these for the processing properties, mechanical properties, and the organoleptic and food contact materials. We're also developing new guidelines for design for food grade recycling, because many products are not designed for food grade applications. In terms of the benefits of the Next Loop program, primarily they are globally reductions in CO2 emissions. And of course, they allow the capturing of these materials in the recycling process so they can be put back into new products. This, of course, reduces the demand on virgin resin. And this allows brand owners to keep their promises that they will reduce the consumption of virgin plastics and also reach their recycled content targets. And the idea here is that we would make specific grades for all the processing applications that polypropylene is used for: film, extrusion, thermoforming, and injection molding. We are already in our program advanced in the preparations for the building of a plant in the UK, and there is a second licensee outside of the EU, which will be in Southeast Asia, and the capacity of the plant will be 10 kilotons, and the target is to have these plants ready by the end of 2022 with all permissions on COVID, etc. These materials we're recommending to be used as blends with addition rates of 25 to 50%, depending on the applications that are being tried by the brand owners and converters. We're also developing a grade called an inert grade polypropylene, which will be very suited for cosmetic applications because they'll be non-migratory in all other applications. So in Next Loop, we have a wide range of benefits coming to the participants. This material will be available to them before the end of the year so that they can actually do all their testing. And companies are coming to us with the view of becoming licensees to manufacture food-grade recycled PP. So we are looking forward to hearing back from companies, but of course we feel that this area of the recycling of polypropylene is extremely important. It's one of those materials that's widely manufactured, widely used in so many food contact applications, yet barely recycled back into food grade, if at all. So I'd like to just leave you with a final message that food grade recycling of polypropylene is being implemented, and we look forward to hearing from people who might have some interest in becoming participants in the project and joining everyone else who wants to close the loop on polypropylene. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ed, for this presentation. I hope that you are with us. I know that you're traveling, and this has been a last moment change in your schedule. So yes, you are with us. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, I'm here, Avi.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for joining, and thanks for joining for the questions. This is obviously a brilliant and an innovative solution that I hope the recycling companies and the sorting companies and the manufacturing companies here on the call have seen. A couple of questions. I have a question from Noah here. She asked if the technology can be implemented also for PE recycling.
This is specific to polypropylene because PE, there is a technology for PE, but it all depends on the behavior of these materials. And we do have separate technologies for each of these. It's not a universal one. This one's tailored for polypropylene, and we have another technology for PE. And if you ask the question, why is that the case? It relates to the process of decontamination and the way in which it happens. So it's slightly different for each polymer due to the different behaviors of these materials.
Wonderful. So Noah, if you want to be in touch with Edward, I'll be happy to make the connection to ask about more details about the PE. I wanted to ask about actually the label, because it seems we don't have a presentation by Holy Grail in this seminar, but it seems like there are various mechanism standards that are being developed in order to do better sorting. What do you think are the advantages versus the Holy Grail? Could it be somehow integrated if there is such a large effort across Europe to work on the Holy Grail, or how is it different?
Okay, so our system works in conjunction with the existing near-infrared visible sorting machinery. So you put a label on the machine on the package, you put it under ultraviolet light, and it identifies it. So we don't modify the machine other than add an ultraviolet light, and we program the wavelength of the fluorescence into the machine. So we get unique identification. The first pass identification is 99%. So this is done at full speed. So what is our advantage? Number one, you don't have to change the machinery. You just add a label. And of course, that's a big advantage. So with the Holy Grail, you're doing object recognition, plus you're zooming in on pixels. So you need very high definition cameras. And then you need image processing to detect the digital watermark. So you have to have hundreds of thousands of image processing per minute. Now that means massive computing power. So if you're running a recycling factory, you just ask yourself, do you have the technicians to service high-speed image processing? Because typically recycling companies don't have such people. So what we're doing is a recycling-friendly approach, integrated with the industry without buying new machinery and equipment. And of course, all you have to do is change the label. So we think that's a big plus, a big advantage. The other thing I think that the digital watermark is doing is making packaging scannable at the supermarket so that the brand owners know what people are buying. Well, if you ask a recycler, do you want to sort your packaging on SKUs? They say, no, we just want the plastic. They don't care which SKUs are in there. So I think that's the big difference. We're designing it from a recycler's point of view. Holy Grail is trying to do it from a brand owner's point of view, but brand owners actually don't recycle plastic. So we think this is a far more direct, simple, robust, cheaper, faster technique of separating food from non-food. Plus, we have the decontamination technology. So if you sort material, it doesn't mean you have food grade. You have to have sorting plus the food grade process. So the Holy Grail does not have a food grade process. So you'll end up with two piles, food and non-food, and then what? So you have to have both. So yeah. I'm afraid, yes, there are a lot of people on the big Holy Grail bus, but let's hope it has a final destination.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they're definitely making a lot of publicity, and therefore such a maverick effort is interesting to follow up to see how it fares with the bus, as you call it. Another question, if you still have time, from Odaya, if you can explain again about how do you add the technology to an existing sorting center? Is it just an infrared eye that identified the label? I know you explained it, but maybe you can.
No. So basically, the machine already has ultraviolet light, and it has a camera. So the camera is a part of the existing system. So when we identify a package with a color, so if you're discriminating colored from natural or whatever, the camera is already there. So our fluorescent label goes under the light, it fluoresces a specific wavelength, the camera picks it up. So we don't have to change anything, we just change the label, and we have to make sure we have an ultraviolet light. So this is done by integrating the lighting source into the machine. So it's a straightforward operation.
Excellent. Odaya, I hope this answers your question. And in case not, we'll be happy to connect anybody with Ed's office to get proper answers, not when he's dressed in a vest and has to, seems like you are in the field somewhere. Having
we are, we're on trial. So we're actually running our food grade material today in one of the plants. So sorry, I'm not in the more comfortable position to answer, but this is really quite an active area. And, you know, our participants in our project are very, very interested to get materials to put into their packaging. So we're busy working on these things.
Interesting, and we're definitely happy to follow up and see your progress and connect anybody that's interested with you. Hopefully there'll be some connections made. Thanks so much for your time.
And thank you for inviting me. And it's great to see you doing this for the industry to bring innovation to them, because really this is really quite important, because the whole world is working on the circularity of plastics, which brings so much benefit. And you're bringing these innovations to your country and to your people. So of course, we're very happy to hear from them and from you, and try to help out in making plastics much more sustainable.
Sure, that's a nice message to close with. Thanks so much, Ed, and hopefully we'll be in touch. Enjoy the day.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye. So after this presentation, we're taking a break. Again, time for everybody to take a coffee and think about what we've heard. And we'll be back here in 15 minutes at 11:20 Israel time, 10:20 European time, for another recorded presentation from Werner and Merz, actually about how to use recycled material in packaging, in cosmetics packaging, PP and HDP. So thanks a lot. See you in 15 minutes after the break.
Hello, my name is Timothy Glaze and I represent the company Werner und Merz, company based in Germany, when we produce mainly household cleaning applications.
So hello everybody, but welcome back from the break. We are moving ahead with our next, again, recorded presentation by Timothy Glatz. He's the head of corporate affairs at Werner und Merz. They are a family-run manufacturer of cleaning agents, headquartered in Mainz, Germany. And they are one of the first in Europe that have adopted 100% recycled or using recycled recyclers of HDPE. And Timothy had sent us a recorded presentation. Again, we played with the automatic subtitles, so please excuse us if the subtitles are a bit different than the text, but this was this is automatically generated. Ksenia, press play.
Hello, my name is Timothy Glaze and I represent the company Werner und Merz, company based in Germany, when we produce mainly household cleaning applications, detergents, and more cosmetics like, for instance, shower gels. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the conference for having me, and I will be happy to give you some insights how we at Werner und Merz treat plastics for our packaging and how and where we find good solutions for closing the loop for used packaging. The title of my presentation is Circular Plastic Packaging at Werner und Merz, 100% post-consumer recyclates from advanced mechanical PET and HDPE recycling. First of all, some facts and figures to our company. Importantly, I have to point out, and that's also an important effect on our strategy, that we are a family business since 1867, and it's the 5th generation. The sole owner of the company is Reinhard Schneider, and obviously, and as is necessary in such cases, if you really want to be committed to sustainability, he is the first sustainability officer of the company. In 2019 financial year, we had a turnover of roughly 455 million euro and with about 1,000 colleagues, mainly in Germany and in Austria, where we have our production plants. Next, I want to come to the center of my presentation, how to make and use plastic circular. As all of you are aware, we need to deal with plastics in a more sustainable way. And how we at Werner und Merz see it, we need to develop a circular vision, and we refer our solutions to the concept of cradle to cradle. Cradle to cradle is a concept that is referring to a circular of biological cycle and a technical cycle. The biological cycle obviously covers the formulations of our products, and the technical cycle is dedicated to our packaging. Both cycles are supposed to fulfill maximum sustainability standards and also follow the idea of using basically waste and upcycle it to make a new product that is fully sustainable. Cradle to Cradle reflects in a very qualified manner our basic approach to sustainability, which is being holistically sustainable and covering each step of our production. Coming from this idea, we figured that the cycle of used plastic packaging in Germany, and I would assume that is in parallel and the same all over the world, is not ideal. So We have a separate collection in Germany for plastic packaging, and it's a household collection. But until, more or less nowadays, we hardly have any models to take the plastic that was collected and bring it back into the loop and make new plastic packaging out of it. So most of it is actually incinerated or maybe used as for the cement production or steel production, which in our eyes is not the best solution to treat used plastic packaging, and it's not the way that we would understand our producer responsibility. So in 2012, we founded the initiative for recycled packaging and called it Recycled Initiative. And it was meant to take plastic from the separate collection and reintroduce it into new packaging. So we started with PET because most of our plastic packaging is PET bottles. It was an evolutionary approach, step by step, because obviously we couldn't develop a solution on our own. We needed a clear commitment and a close relationship to the bottle producer, in our case, Alpla. Generally spoken, if you really want to develop good packaging solutions, you definitely need a collaboration with the whole stakeholder community of your suppliers, and obviously also with the retailers, because at the end it is a new packaging, and you should always be open with the communication at an early stage. So again, we started in 2008 with our first step of using recycled content in our packaging, and that was from the separate bottle collection in Germany, which is mainly for beverage bottles. But again, when we introduced and founded the Recycled Initiative, the goal was to take plastic from the mixed plastic packaging collection because that had not been used in an adequate manner beforehand. So in 2014, we introduced 20% from the so-called yellow bag. That's the yellow part in the bottle. And we still had 20% virgin material and 60% from the deposit collection. So the next step was that we made the bottle out of 100% post-consumer recycled content, 20% from the yellow bag and 80% from the deposit bottle collection. And the third step, and that was really a revolutionary step, was that we now have 50% material from the yellow bag collection and 50% from the bottle-to-bottle collection. Revolutionary, why? Because obviously the collection of PET packaging in the households is mixed, as mentioned, and that's also obviously the challenge. And we managed to actually introduce 50% from this mixed collection into the new packaging. All of us were really very happy with the results. It's fully transparent, as you can see here. So we don't have to have any compromise for the quality of the transparency. And again, that's a revolutionary step. But obviously, we aim to have 100% from the yellow bag in the next, or maybe in 2 steps. It's an evolutionary process because you obviously have to check that the technology also matures with the evolution, and the technology contains several steps, but it's available, it's possible. And again, we're talking about the maximum level of how much you can take from the mixed collection and reintroduce it in the packaging without creating major problems in production. And again, our partner is Alpla, and we have the proof of concept due to the fact that they use the packaging, that they use the flakes that come from the recycling in the production for the new bottles. We're talking about real life introduction, which means that we already sold over 500 million bottles that are made out of 100% recycled content. It's a very important fact that you should start fast to introduce solutions, to learn about the challenges, and to find out if there are any limitations. We strongly recommend to use mechanical recycling as reference to the closing the loop, because other technologies require much more energy, and the energy that you use leads to a CO2 footprint. And here we can see from a study from Eunomia done for the European Commission that mechanical recycling of PET is highly effective, reducing the environmental footprint towards and compared to the virgin production. So I can only recommend to go into mechanical recycling and to choose recycling from mechanical production, mechanical recycling production. PET bottles were the first step, and once you start and try to create a really well-functioning closed loop for plastic coming from mixed collections, then you understand that you need to also improve other elements of your packaging. You need to develop solutions for labels that come off easy, so that in the hot water treatment and the recycling plant, they can really be separated from the plastic. And we also developed a solution using HDPE from the mixed collection for our HDPE bottles, which were mainly for floor cleaning products and for our shower gels. But also the caps made from polypropylene, we developed together with our supplier caps that are made out of 100% recycled polypropylene. And also a very important element, obviously, was the printing colors for the labels, because the printing inks cause degradation of the quality of recyclates. So if you use sustainable printing colors that come off easily and don't remain in the stream of recycling, then you really add substantially to the quality of the recycled material coming out of the process. So that's basically saying that PET is important for us, for instance, because we use it a lot, but that's not enough to look only in the bottles, but you should also develop solutions for the other elements of your packaging. And we as Werner and Merz feel a responsibility also to kind of be a pioneer and show what is possible. So we start at a small scale, obviously. We are a small company, a medium-sized company, and we really would be happy if more companies would join in the same direction that we are going. I mentioned HDPE recycling. There were many critics that wouldn't work, because mostly if you use recycled material from HDPE, then there's a smell to it, and so we had to develop a new process without developing new machines, because the machines were there. We just had to develop a new process, and at the end we had a quality out of the process that even met the criteria for cosmetics, at least for rinse-off cosmetics. For instance, we are selling our shower gels in. Here you can see the stepwise approach that we would strongly recommend, and we can more or less show that it's possible. We started with non-food packaging. The next step was cosmetic packaging made out of 100% post-consumer recycled content. And again, the recommendation is to use the standard procedures for risk assessment to the cosmetic, and we found out that there was no risk using this kind of material. We started more or less a joint or a cooperation with Bayersdorf. Main brand is Nivea, and they have a lot of leave-on cosmetic, and we developed a standard recommendation how to apply or what to apply to the recycling process to at the end receive a quality that you can also use for the leave-on cosmetics. The last step that obviously is not our direct business is the food packaging step, but that is necessary to prove that recycling from mechanical recycling and post-consumer sources can also meet the requirements for food packaging. We are highly convinced that that is possible, as is already shown with beverage bottles coming from the deposit collection, and we are convinced that that should also work with mixed collections if you apply methods to really make sure that there is no contaminants in the recycled material. The last thing I want to point out is we're not only using recycled material for closing the loop, but we are also, and we have developed a solution for flexibles. Until a year or a year and a half, our flexible packaging was made out of different layers of plastics, which basically is not recyclable. You can incinerate it, and more or less that was the end of life. So we developed together again with our supplier for the flexible packaging, which is Mondi, the first worldwide high quality recyclable stand-up pouch, and it's made out of a monomaterial LDPE, and it is actually high quality recyclable because the outer garments are detachable. As you can see here, you can just take it off, and then it's separated. You can also take out this layer, and at the end you have a transparent inner pouch, and that is fit for high quality recycling, which is highly necessary because flexibles make more than 50% of the total packaging, plastic packaging turnover worldwide. And that's also a pretty clever solution because it actually contributes to three elements of the circularity concept. It's reduce, reuse, and recycle. Actually, the reduction is over 70% in reference or compared to the bottle. The reuse part is that you can actually refill at home, and recycle, as I mentioned, it's 100% recyclable, so that would be 100% effective circularity, and again contribute to the idea of cradle to cradle. Our concept shows that it's 100% into the bottle, not into the ocean. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you all well and stay healthy. Goodbye.
So we're back live. Timothy, unfortunately, is not available for questions, but Gilad, you had a question. If you want to send it to us, we'll be sure to forward that to Timothy. And we move on now to polystyrene, and we have with us Dr. Frank Eisenträger. He's the product director for polystyrene EMEA at INEOS Styrolutions, which is part of the INEOS group. And his presentation has this beautiful beautiful title of P.S. I Love You. Frank, hello, good morning. Welcome here, and the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning all together. Yeah, And that is the truth. I love PS and run the PS business for Styrolution, and I'll try to convince you now. And I'll start sharing my screen. You tell me if you you see, and then yeah, then we go. So that should be this. So actually, you should see my first slide now.
We do. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, excellent. So then we can go on. So let me run through the wonderful world of styrenics, but starting with a quick glance on INEOS Styrolution first. So INEOS Styrolution is one of the business units of INEOS, which for sure you know. We are present in 10 countries with 20 production sites, so really a global company, and the #1 global leader in styrenics. Concerning sustainability, we have been rated by EcoVadis with the platinum rating. So actually that puts us in the top 1%, and we are relatively proud of that. If we go to the commitments we have done, so then the whole INEOS company committed to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. For polystyrene, we said that we will have by 2025 30% recycled content in our products, and we also ensure that actually all of our polymer products will be recyclable or can be recycled. So that brings us then to the recycling of styrenics and the technologies we have. So starting from the linear value chain we know, we start from the feedstock, end up with the waste, and then the question is, how do we bring the waste back to our products? So what are the recycling methods we can use in order to stop landfill and stop incineration, as this is not what we want to do in the future. So the shortest pathway actually to go back to the polymers is the mechanical recycling. That is highly efficient. As it is the shortest pathway, it should be also the cheapest solution. We expect the best time to market, and it has the best carbon footprint of all the technologies I'll show you here. And I'll bring it a little bit in more detail for polystyrene and for ABS. The next very curious one is depolymerization. Depolymerization means you heat up the polymer, and then the polymer decomposes into the monomer. That is relatively specific and only works with very few polymers. Actually, I only know polystyrene and PMMA, which do behave like this on decomposition by heating into the monomer. So, and for polystyrene, we'll use that to have access then to recycled styrene. And this one we can polymerize in all our polymers, be it polystyrene or be it ABS or others. So, and then of course we have the big technology pyrolysis or gasification, which starts from mixed waste plastics. So that doesn't need to be pure polystyrene, can also be polyethylene, polypropylene. And I'm sure you heard also in that conference quite a lot already on those technologies. And last but not least, we also have the possibility to take renewable feedstock in and have then well, not really bio-based, but at least bio-attributed materials to offer. So this leads us then to our portfolio, so to the new family of sustainable products we have, and which we all call eco materials. So the eco is always in the name, and they are designed, well, first of all, as mentioned, to avoid landfill and incineration. But also they are designed to have virgin-like performance. So we really want to step away from downcycling and keep the property profile that actually in the application it is a drop-in material. And for the bio feedstock, then it is also based on renewable feedstock like wood waste. So mechanical recycling polystyrene. actually has started, and we have two materials in our portfolio, one recycled GPPS material, so general purpose polystyrene, and one recycled high impact polystyrene, where you just see the name. So how do we do that? So we start from the separate collection of waste, which exists in a few countries where all the plastic materials are sorted, and then actually in the first sorting center are sorted by polymer identity into polyolefin bales, PS bales, PT bales, and so on. And from those bales, we start and we grind the articles that can be a used yogurt pot, for example, into a small flake. And those flakes then are hot washed. That, well, first of all, takes off all the remaining yogurt traces or whatever that might be, but also printing colors which are on the lid and on the plastic itself. Then we rinse that, we dry it, and we end up with nicely white flakes. Well, there might be also some colored flakes. If the yogurt pot was colored before, of course, there are some colored flakes. And this is why we go into flake sorting. These flake sorting will allow us to sort for color. That is the obvious one. But we will also sort for purity reasons once again for chemical identity. So actually, every single flake is looked at and, well, and it's decided if it is rejected, yes or no. With that, we come to 99.9% purity of polystyrene. And this then goes in the so-called super cleaning. You might know that from PET. There's absolutely the same thing. So the super cleaning needs to take out all possible eventual contaminations that might be in because of that waste phase. When the polystyrene yogurt cup was in the waste, something could migrate in, and we need to take it out again in this step. So basically, this is a hot extrusion with a lot of or with high vacuum and a large surface. Also, we do melt filtration to get rid of black specks and everything that would bother us in the use of the material then later on again. And we pelletize, of course, because everybody wants to have pellets. So this, actually, to sum it up, says we can offer polystyrene mechanically recycled with a content up to 100%. That is then a drop-in solution. Basically, it has just the recipe which you need for producing yogurt pots. It is not downcycling, and this all is possible because polystyrene is one of the best sortable materials by NIR. There is not a lot of black material, so there are a lot of things which come together that make polystyrene relatively unique and perfectly adapted for that. And with the mechanical recycling also, we really have a very low greenhouse gas footprint. And this then is what I call true circularity. We really go from yogurt pot to yogurt pot. This is our ambition. If you allow me a quick excursion to the mechanical recycling of ABS, also there, we want to build the best recycled ABS in the world. Here you'll see that the concept is slightly different. So we do not do 100% recycled materials, as ABS, while it contains more rubber, which might degrade, and therefore you need to improve the mechanical properties a bit. And you'll see that we offer it up to 70%. So we actually have two grades, 50% or 70%. And with that recipe, we really avoid also that there's any downcycling. So we have the properties, I'll show you that, on the level of the virgin, with high gloss and nice black color. So it should be a drop-in solution, and you'll also be supplied with all the regulatory statements you might need for that material. So if you have a deeper look into the properties, then well, in the first line you see the virgin material, Telloran GP22, And then in the two lines to follow, you see the 50% and the 70% material. The impact, that is for me one of the crucial properties, is actually exactly on that level. The MVR is just around that level. The only point where you actually see a slight difference is in the YCAT. And there's this question if you need that high YCAT. But that for us is the definition of best recycled ABS in the world, and a drop-in solution with no downcycling. To sum this up, yeah, I think I said everything of that already. Also there, mechanical recycling results in a very low CO2 and greenhouse gas footprint. This actually currently is available as Terloran Eco only in black. You know that Terloran is a part of our standard portfolio, so relatively lean. If you want colors, then there is good news. So you can go for colors. This is then called Novodur Eco, as Novodur is the specialty brand for all kinds of colors in the ABS business. And there, well, we have the first project, as you see on the right. Good. That brings us then back to polystyrene and a quick glance into depolymerization. So depolymerization, as I said, is you break down the polymer chain into the monomer. And this actually allowed us already to show the perfect circle. And this was presented first at the K Fair 2019, where we said, okay, we start with polystyrene, depolymerize it to styrene oil. This then will be distilled. So this is the purification step that allows us to end up with styrene just as if we buy fossil styrene, very similar to identical specification. And this then can be polymerized again in this example, again to polystyrene. And with the polystyrene, you can produce a sheet, and the sheet you can thermoform to a yogurt cup. And then you also have done the perfect circle here. So it is a different technology, also ensures full circularity. The technology is more powerful because it also gives you the opportunity to introduce the styrene in other materials, in transparent polystyrene, and not only in the HIPs, which you need for a yogurt cup. So what is our road, our journey here? So actually we started in 2019, where we put out the pledge of the 30% recycled content for 2025. In August 20, we signed the agreement with Recycling Technologies. So they are the technology provider for our depolymerization plant, which we want to build. And we will have that, we have a pilot of that plant operational in 2023. And then we go for the upscaling and well, have the plans for the large plant already in the drawer. And this should then be built and be operational in 25. So in 25, we really want to have industrial quantities, commercial quantities available of depolymerized styrene monomer, and then also the respective polystyrene. So to sum that up, we have seen that various recycling technologies, and I just gave you actually two examples, mechanical recycling and depolymerization, work for styrenics. And that is relatively unique, that we can use so many different technologies with styrenics. It can be depolymerized into the monomer, and this then will allow us to use it back in transparent applications, in food contact applications, so in all kinds of difficult applications which mechanical recycling has problems with. So food contact will not be the issue, this I showed you, but transparent grades will remain an issue because you do not find a lot of transparent GPPS in the waste actually. And we have very good CO2 and greenhouse gas footprints, even better for mechanical recycling than for depolymerization. So this is then the overview where we can use our eco materials. You see that Teleron Eco is used in a broad variety: household, construction, toy, sports, and leisure, and electronics for sure. With Styrolution PS, so the polystyrene, well, the main target is food packaging, but we will also look into household and construction. These are the biggest segments. And I mean, for all the rest, you can read the chart yourself and see that this is really broad. And yeah, you'll hear us in all these industries talking about our materials. And with that, actually, I'd be through. I hope that I've shown you that styrenics are made for recycling, and we'll bring it to commercial scale as quick as possible. And yeah, I've not seen the chat, so I hope that if there are any questions, then just read them and we tackle them.
Thanks, Frank. So I don't see any questions, but I have a question. Again, as a layman in plastics, my understanding is that PS is not recycled in Israel because it's not sorted in Israel, because there is not enough critical mass to make it economically efficient to install the sorting the relevant sorting facilities in order to be able to do that. I don't know how much you're familiar with the Israeli market, but if you are, maybe you can share what are the barriers to start a process for sorting and recycling PS in Israel, and if that's true, that the barrier is the critical mass that's not existing here.
Yeah, of course you need a certain critical mass to start with, but I don't think that the critical mass is so high that this is not possible. Also, Israel,
so low,
I think Israel.
So low.
Yeah, so I think the barrier is actually lower than we think. And therefore we can start it. Yeah, so we will also start small in Europe with the first plant and then the second plant and so on. And the learnings we have there, we can then also easily transfer into other regions. I know the Israel market a bit, so I think there is enough volume. And the first and crucial thing is you need to sort it out. So that is. It is a pity if it just goes to mixed waste recycling or to incineration or landfill. So that is what we need to avoid. If we sort it out, I'm pretty sure we can ensure that it's then also being recycled, mechanically recycled. Probably that is the easiest technology, and that is the first I would deploy.
Yeah. Thanks for that. We have another question. I think I know the answer, but Daniel is asking if you can also solve styrofoam recycling.
Yeah, so there again, the question is by what technology? So and there's a variety of technologies we could do. I think the first thing we should strive for is mechanical recycling. There, the issue is that foams are not as easy to wash. That is a hurdle which we need to overcome. It has been proven it's possible, but well, not everything what is possible is also cost effective. But I think if you then limit the use back into construction, then actually you can do that relatively quickly and easy. If you do not strive for food packaging, yeah. So food packaging out of foam, that will be a real challenge. So there you would rather go to depolymerization and the chemical ways. But for construction and non-food packaging, I think we can do, and we will see this maybe in a year or two.
And that's a solution by Styrolutions, by you?
We will do this as well. It is not the first thing we bring on the market, but it is in the pipeline and in our R&D. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. Thanks for these answers and for timekeeping. This was really interesting. And anybody again that would like to be in touch with Frank, would be happy to make the connection.
Thank you.
And we move ahead to flexible packaging. Again, as we discussed yesterday, this is a hot topic here in Israel that also UNIDO wants to promote. And we invite Barry Bellert. He's the sales engineer of plastics recycling at Atero. Atero is the Dutch market leader in waste handling. Barry, the floor is yours. I don't see your you're here. Perfect. Wonderful.
Thank you, Avi. I hope you can see me.
We can see you.
And hear me. Okay, I will start to try to share my screen. Let's wait. Is it this one? Share. Okay.
Yes, in draft mode. Can you?
And now it should be
presentation mode.
In presentation mode.
And now it's in presenters mode.
It's in presenter mode. Okay. Let's see what I have to change.
It's in Dutch, so I'm not sure I can help, but somebody did something with the menus up yesterday with the menus up in the left corner.
That's fine. Is it like this, eh?
Now it's perfect, yes.
Now it's perfect. Yeah, only things that I'm missing something of my lines. So wait a moment, please. Stop sharing. Let's see again. And there I take.
Do you want us to try to share the presentation?
Wait a moment. It's just I have two screens, and I have to find out which one is the right one. I think it's okay now, right?
Yeah, we can see it. Yes.
Okay, let's hope I'll do it like this. Could be that I forget something, but that will be all I can do at the moment. Well, thank you very much. Well, as said, my name is Barry Bellert. I'm working for a company of Atero. And Atero is one of the bigger waste recycling companies in the Netherlands. Before we go into plastics recycling, I want to tell you a little bit about our company profile. It means that we are active in several branches. And first, to start with residual waste, we have two waste to energy plants where we incinerate about 1.6 million tons of waste in the Netherlands. Can be household waste, industrial waste, imported waste, whatever. After that, we have two post-sorting plants where we treat packaging waste, means post-sorting, that we try to sort out as much as possible all household plastics from the residual waste. This material goes into a sorting line, and in this sorting line we sort the materials according to polymer. I will tell you a little bit more about in the coming presentation. And in the end, we are also active in one recycling plant where we recycle post-consumer household film into new recyclates. Besides that, we are also heavily active in organic waste with 7 composting and digestion plants, and we also have 1 biomass to energy plant. And then in the end, we are active in mineral activities with 4 active landfill sites. We also have some closed sites still in position. We're active in soil cleaning and rubble recycling. In total, about 4 million tons every year of waste what we process and try to recycle with 800 employees, and we are with a heavily attention for safety because the waste recycling industry is not the most safe industry as known, and that's what we want to improve. And we see a dramatic decrease in our LTIF for the last years. And for last year, it was even 1.71. So that was very satisfying for us. Yeah, we have seen a lot of developments in waste recycling in the last decades. Means that until the 90s in the Netherlands, most of the materials was brought to landfill. And then we saw as a company that when landfill is not possible anymore, the next option was to incinerate, waste to energy. But we also saw then already that just incinerating all of these materials was not the way forward. And starting to sort and recycle should be better. That's why in the end we started to sort with plastics from residual waste, and now we bring it into new pellets. So this is maybe it's a very complex or let's say a full slide, but I'll walk you through it. On the left we see an image of the plant. It's about 350 acres, so it's large. There we start to treat 800,000 tons of residual waste. We start by separating the organic material. Just by sieving off, this organic material is brought into organic digestion, and then we produce green gas, which we sell into the market with green gas certificates. The rest goes into the post-sorting line for packaging waste. We have to be clear, at this moment we only do post-sorting for household waste, but maybe in the future also industrial waste, but at this moment only household waste. All the plastics that we extract goes in the end into the sorting line that we see in the middle. Try to find my cursor, yes. And this sorting line is also fed by the separate source collected materials that are collected door to door in every household in the Netherlands. After sorting, we get the sorted material into bales like PET bottles, PET trays. We have some mixed plastics, we have Tetra Pak. And in our own recycling plant in Wijster, we recycle the film material into new regranules that are sold into the market. We have another plant in the site in Montfort where we do a washing and flaking of the HDB and PP. And all materials that are left over are brought to waste to energy. We produce steam. This steam can be transported either to companies in a direct area who need heat, or this heat can be used in our own recycling plant for film. And what's left over is brought to electricity, which also is sold to the market. And what's left over then from the waste energy plant is bottom ash. And we do bottom ash recycling, try to remove the ferrous and non-ferrous and end up with a construction material for building roads, etc. Well, how does post-sorting looks in reality? It's look like this. On the left, we see a big bunker where the input material just is dumped. This is brought into our sorting line where we start to sieve it into 4 fractions just to make sorting upfront a little bit easier. And of course, this transport is going by conveyor belts. After transport, we start with ballistic separators, and I will explain the different techniques a little bit further on. So ballistic separation to separate 2D and 3D material. It is also done by a wind shifting. And in the end, let's say the most important technique that we use is near infrared to sort 2 and 3D to specification. Well, if you have a ballistic separator, for the ones who don't know how it works, it's a kind of a sieve on an angle, and it just shakes a little bit like this. Makes it possible that on top, the flat packaging and flexible items go on the top, so like paper, and film material, and the rolling and rigid items end up at the bottom. And there is also another function that means sieving, that the fine fraction will be sieved off. A wind shifter works as follows. We have a conveyor belt which is moving up, and then on top there is a kind of a sucking outlet which just sucks up all the light materials as paper and film materials. You can imagine the film grabber on the right, and it also just grabs out flexibles out of the waste stream. These flexibles can be film, it can be paper, it can be textiles, and so on. And then, of course, near infrared. So this near infrared makes us possible to recognize materials by shape and type and eject the wanted items from the belt. And this is the way we try to separate plastics, diapers, Tetra Pak, wood, etc. Even with belt speeds from 2.5 to 4 meters per second. And I'm not sure if everybody joined the webinar yesterday, where Tamra did the presentation. So maybe it's a little bit extra, but a near infrared scanner works as follows: that we have a conveyor belt where the material is brought up. Important is that every item is separate on the belt. Then a little bit further, we have a light. So we emit light to the objects on the belt. We get a reflection, and this reflection makes possible to identify what material is there. Is it an HDPE? Is it PP? Is it wood? Is it textile? Is it stone? So that makes it possible to sort out all the items that we want. And by just installing several NIRs in a certain loop behind each other, makes it possible just to eject all the materials like Tetra Pak, PT bottle, PT tray, PE, PP, LDPE, mixed plastics, and even the black plastics we can sort out by using a combination of a laser with near infrared. Yeah, if you look at the sorting plant, it looks a little bit like this. It's a lot of steel, it's a lot of conveyor belts, and the main equipment is near infrared sorters. And in our sorting line at this moment, 14 near infrared sorters are active, just to sort out all the plastics. Recycling plant, our polymer recycling plant, has a little bit different view. It looks a little bit different. It's more, let's say, high tech. Yeah, what is the main reason for us to invest in post-consumer film recycling? Because we heard from the market that it's so hard to recycle film. There are a lot of issues. It's heavily polluted with organic materials, with textiles, paper, and of course we have the glue from the labels, we have the ink from the printing, there is a smell, and it's still polluted with other polymers, and we also have the multi-material or the multi-layer film packaging. And in the end, it results in the fact that circularity in post-consumer film is very hard. It means that lots of materials goes into thicker wall products. Doesn't mean it's not recycled, but in the end, if we go for 100% circularity, we need to improve this recycling, and we make sure that film is also recycled from film to film. How do we want to achieve that? Yeah, sure, we have to improve the sorting, but maybe also improve the collection. At the first slide, I showed a landfill, and we all know if material ends up in a landfill, it's not recycled. Or when it ends up into incineration, it's not recycled. So we have to improve the sorting, we have to improve the washing, and in the end, we have to improve the homogeneity. Well, our process that we developed is in a few steps. Means we start by shredding, then we have another option to sort again. We have a cold wash, we have a hot wash process, we extrude, we have mixing tanks, and we can in the end send the materials in bulk or big bags. Well, how does it look in reality? It looks like this. Materials are arriving at the plant in bales, just because we have our own film recycling line or a sorting line. It doesn't mean that we do not press material on bales, because bales are the most easiest way also for storage. So materials start by bale, go into a thick, into a large shredder, which shreds the material, make the bale loose, and removes iron after that. Like I said, also in the recycling line, we have near infrared sorters, just to make possible to additional remove all the items that we don't want. And also our recycling line has a capacity more than what we can sort ourselves. It means that also we can use input material from other sorters where we don't have the possibility to, let's say, to pay enough attention to the quality. And by adding this near into our recycling line makes it possible also to use these materials. Then as a first step, we go into a pre-wash, and pre-wash is the first step with water, just to prevent the next shredding step, where we try to shred the film into flakes. And pre-wash removes all the materials like sand, stone, iron, all items that can harm the grinders. And it's also the first phase where just we try to dilute the organic material. Then after that, we start with hot wash. I already explained that we need hot wash just to be sure that we can remove glue, that we can remove labels, that we can remove organic material and solve the most of the smell issue in the plant. After after hot wash, we start with density separation. It's more classic swim sink. So the polyolefins just float on water, and the impurities sink to the bottom like PET and PVC. And after the density separation, we just state that our washing process is done. Means we only have to dry it. And to dry it, we do it in two phases. First is mechanical drying by using centrifuges. And after that, we have thermal drying. And even in this heating and drying process, we use steam, just to make sure that we have an ultimate combination on one plant regarding sustainability also. Like I said, in the end, we have to extrude the material, because the washed flake is a very light material. It's clean, but it has a very low density. And to make transport possible, we have to extrude again. That's why we use this ARIMA equipment with a triple degassing and also melt filtration. Try to remove the remaining impurities as much as possible. At the end of the line, we have our mixing tanks for the homogenization. It means that we can treat a batch from 24 hours and we blend it full continuously to make sure that this composition is very stable and constant. Although in our input, in our sorting, it's a lot of homogenization steps, but this is the last step where we just make sure that the quality is very stable. In the end, and we can packing our materials into big bags, or we can just blow it into silos. And from these silos, we have bulk transports to our customers. And of course, it's more efficient to save on pallets and big bags and all the handling. In the end, so from film to new pallets, this is how it looks. Maybe it's disappointed for some of you because it's still gray, but that's what happens if you just add all the colors together. In the end, the palette will be gray. So this could be an upside for us in the future, that we also want to sort out the transparent film upfront and can use more qualities, so also possible for the translucent or natural qualities. The end markets that we serve, end markets are markets for pipes and tubes. We have end markets for sheets in where we around the trees for agricultural to feed the water. We have ground protection sheets. We have more thicker wall and stable sheets. We can produce buckets and tubs. It can be used in pellets. It can be used in grids for stones, etc. But also for film, for garbage bags. And next year we want to bring out our own compost from our compost and digestion plants, packed in our own plastic bag, produced from our waste film material. Yeah, so as a company with our customers, what do we offer? We know that recyclers from post-consumer household doesn't have the quality like virgin. It doesn't have it at the moment, and it will not be in the future. There is a difference, although we work very hard. There is a difference in composition. There is a small difference in properties. There is still a minor issue with odor. And like I said, the material is gray at the moment. But it can be transported in bulk or big bag, and it's produced to a certain specification. We have constant availability and prices which are stable throughout the whole year. And most of us know what happens this year with the prices and availability from prime or virgin materials. In the end, we need a cooperation with customers to optimize the quality. And we need customers who are intrinsically motivated in the use of PCR. Companies who are only striving for the lowest price are not the first in line. Because together we have to try to close the loop for post-consumer household plastics. And we know it's hard, but we prove it's possible. And because it's post-consumer, we need a fair price. A lot of cost has been made, and in the end, it has to be paid back. And we promise that we have recyclates from 100% household packaging waste. We work on circularity of all this material, just preventing landfill and incineration. And we are open for every discussions and trials, because we know that working together is building on a sustainable future. Now, this was the last slide, but before we end up, I have a nice movie for you to watch, and you can see all activities in real life.
I think, Barry, that we have run out of time. And
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. For the benefit of the question that we have, I think we prefer to answer a question than the clip. But if you can send the clip to us, we will be happy to share.
Yeah, I already did.
Okay. Yes, then we will.
Your possession, no problem, Arnie.
So we have two questions. One is, what do you do with a mixture of HDPE, LDPE in a monomaterial PE structure? Are you able to recycle it?
At this moment, we try to separate all the PE film material. And PE film is not only LD, we know it's LL, it's LD, it's a bit of MD even, it's a bit of HD, but it's all PE film. And this material in the end brings the properties to the pellet we have. So rigid HDPE is separately sorted. So it's only the PE film.
Okay. And I have to say that this presentation makes me jealous, because we in Israel don't sort films and don't recycle films. Most of them, definitely not the post-consumer. And the Netherlands and Israel have somewhat the same number of, the same order of magnitude of population. And I'm wondering, why does it work in the Netherlands and we don't have the same thing in Israel? Maybe you can share your opinion about that.
Yeah, so that you envy us, I can understand. But we also know it was a long way. But what makes it possible is the producers responsible organization. So the EPR scheme. And this EPR scheme, in the end, is funding the collection, sorting, and recycling. Otherwise, it would not be possible.
So there's a premium for that, of course, and that premium is paid by the brands or by the manufacturers, and that makes it possible. Yes. Understood.
That's how it works.
Great. Thanks for this jealous-making presentation.
No problem. You're welcome.
Thanks for your time. And again, if there are questions or people that want to connect, we'll be happy to connect you with Barry. Thanks, Barry.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. We move forward to discussing RPET. In Israel, we're going to launch 2 RPET facilities, bottle to bottle. But we wanted to talk with Andreas Stoiber. He's the global key account manager for Viscotec, which is an Austrian-based provider of RPET. We have a recording of Andreas, and after that, he will be available for Q&A. So let's run the recording.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my presentation about RPET 100, designed for recycling, made from recycled PET. My name is Andreas. I'm working for a company called Viscotec, and I would like to introduce Viscotec a little bit so that you have a good idea what we're actually doing. Viscotec is a division of Stahlinger. Stahlinger is an Austrian-based machine manufacturer which has about 750 employees and an annual turnover of well over 200 million euros. So Viscotec is, as mentioned, a division of Stahlinger, and we are specialized in production of machinery supporting the transferal of RPET, post-consumer RPET, into food-grade RPET. We have about, or very close to 300 plants installed worldwide, and these 300 plants are having a capacity of very close to 2.4 million tons per annum, which is the transferal from post-consumer recycled PET into food-grade PET. We have 3 main product lines. One product line is our decontamination dryers, where we take mentioned post-consumer RPET and transfer this into food-grade material. That means the material is fit for direct food contact after the decontamination. A second product line is our SSP, or solid state polycondensation units, where we do the decontamination as well as increase the mechanical properties of the PET back up very close to virgin. And the third product line is our purpose-built PET sheet lines for recycled material input. That means we can put any recycled material in, may it be sheet flake, may it be bottle flake, may it be preform scrap, of course also virgin, and produce sheet with which then further packaging is produced. And with this portfolio we can support the following markets: flake to sheet, in this case we mean bottle flake to sheet, flake to fabric, again bottle flake to fabric. This would be, for example, a big bag out of 100% PET from recycled material. The classic bottle to bottle market, as well as, since recently, the tray to tray market, and since very recently, the dairy and hot film market. Now, after my introduction, you probably ask yourself, why would a machine manufacturer develop a material recipe in order to support the circular economy? Now, to understand this, I would like to present you with our vision of a circular economy or a circularity of food packaging. And you can see this depicted in this picture here, where we are having on the left-hand side the circle of bottles. On the right-hand side, we have the circle of the trays, which we would envision can also be interlinked in this figure 8 picture. And that means that we can, hopefully, in the very near future, intermix the materials of both streams without many restrictions. Now, to dwell a little bit deeper into this topic, how do we define or how do we see circularity? Well, first of all, a real circularity you have when the product that you take as an input material is made exactly into the same product again. What we need for that is certain design requirements for this true recycling. I will explain it a little bit later. So basically what needs to be achieved in our understanding is keep the food packaging in the food packaging loop. So if we put this into a little graphic on the side, recycling is really making the same products out of the input materials again versus downcycling, where we take a certain product and then downcycle it into an end-of-life application, for example, a flower pot or a pipe. This is not what we want. We want to stay on top with the recycling circle. Now, why would you use PT for these applications? Well, number one, material properties of this material. The material properties, in the case of PET, measured with the intrinsic viscosity, are advantageous in the case because we can restore them back up. That means when you produce a certain product out of PET or any other plastic material, that the mechanical properties degrade gradually with every time you're reusing it, with every time you're working with the material or melt it. So with PET, we can put these mechanical properties back up very close to virgin. The second one, big reason is PET is the circular material for food packaging applications. The reason is that we have all kinds of legislations and background works in place, which makes it very, very easy to recycle PET. And last but absolutely not least, it's a very, very sustainable material. So we have a very low carbon footprint. Now, we are taking this very, very seriously, this low carbon footprint. And this is the reason why I would like to dedicate one slide, at least, about the carbon footprint. As you can see here, we commissioned a study in Austria of an independent entity to be looking at different cups, trays, or basically food packaging, and compare 100% rPET packaging with a lot of other things, like other materials made from plastic, other materials altogether like cardboard, or maybe a mix of cardboard and plastic. And you can see here, if you look at it briefly, that 100% rPET is always on top of pretty much everything else. Now, we are very well aware, it is very easy to put numbers out there and put these graphics out there saying, okay, our material is the best, has the best carbon footprint. But we really try to look at a very, very wide range of the life cycle of these packages. And we are also very, very happy to share this with you. But I don't want to actually talk about the CO2 footprint in this presentation, but about our rPET 100. But by all means, if you're interested, please get in touch with us, and we are absolutely happy to share every detail of this study that we made on rPET on the carbon footprint. Right, so we are back on our vision where we are interlinking the bottle circle with the tray circle. Now let's have a look at the singular circles in a bit more detail and what was the requirements in order to achieve that. And let's, in this case, have a look at the bottle-to-bottle recycling circle first, simply because it is already in use for decades. It works absolutely perfectly, and it is a very good example how circular economy can work. So on the right-hand side, you can see a tick list of all the things that have been put in place in order to make it work. For example, no contaminations with additives, no more PVC labels. PVC labels are a very big disturbance in the recycling stream. Generally, labels and colors have been designed for recycling. That means, for example, as many clear bottles as possible, as in comparison to colored bottles. It makes the recycling just more easy with clear bottles. The collection systems have been established and are working very, very well. In Europe, we have currently around 65% of collection rate on average all over Europe, differing north, south, east, west, but average around 65%. And this is a very, very important topic, we have a clear set of legislations and rules in place within Europe and many other countries in the world, which define very clearly how to treat post-consumer recycling material so that you can use it in direct food contact again. Now, if we look now at the more recent addition, the tray-to-tray recycling, we can see this tick list went into a bit of a to-do list, right? So there are still some things we need to be done, but one very big point is already done, which is the clear legislation and rules. So everybody knows what I can and cannot do with post-consumer recycled material to make it a food packaging again. On the other hand, we have now a light gray tick there, or two to be precise, because we have these things already falling into place slowly. For example, the collection systems. We have already companies in Europe which are doing tray-to-tray recycling and making food packaging out of it, but they are in the medium scale. But the direction is absolutely clear in which it is going. This will be a recycling stream in the very near future. And another tick is there for the PET/PE lamination. Now, why this is important to mention is this was one of the big changes in the PET tray industry to go away from PET/PE lamination. PE lamination was used in order to weld the lids onto the trays to protect the food. And this was done with this PE on top of the PET. Now, the PE is unfortunately a big disturbance in the recycling stream, and it was a very big step from the industry to step away from that and look for alternatives and put this also into place. And this is definitely happening at the very moment. This is why it's a light gray tick there. We still have a little bit of work to do. We as an industry, with contamination, additives, labels and colors. So we need to work on the design improvements of the packaging in order to make this completely possible. So far, so good. So we now have all the trays, or very soon we will have all the trays recyclable, relatively straightforward. But when we looked at all the situation that we have, we realized that one very big industry was missing in the use or in our PET family uses. And that is the dairy industry. Now, why is the dairy industry not in the PET family as yet? Well, there are no so simple solutions for dairy industry, hence a couple of obstacles which need to be overcome. So let's pack this in two areas. Why are they not yet using PET? Well, one main reason is the sterilization of the packaging before the filling. This happens with hot steam in very many cases around or across the dairy industry. And PET is not very heat stable. So they had to look for something else. A second reason is UV light protection. So PET by nature is clear. So that's not very good for UV light protection. So we need a couple of additives there, maybe color, maybe stabilizers, maybe oxygen scavengers in order to achieve this, which does not support recycling because it makes it a little bit more difficult. So this is the reason why the dairy industry is not yet in PET. On the other hand, why is the dairy industry not really yet able to recycle the packaging they're using? Well, because the legislation is not really in place for the materials that are used at the very moment, which is mainly polystyrene and polypropylene. And on the other hand, downcycling is the way to go in this case, or is easier to go in this case, because I mentioned before that PET, we can put the properties, the mechanical properties back up, which is not really easily possible with the materials in use in the dairy industry at the moment. So these are the obstacles or challenges that you face, or that the dairy industries face. So out of those obstacles, we now put together a requirement list. So what is the requirement for a material, PET, for example, in order to be able to be used in the dairy packaging? Well, first of all, it needs to be heat resistant up to 100 degrees C. That's because of the sterilization I mentioned before. Second, it has to be fully recyclable. That means fully recyclable means I take the packaging, I treat it, and then I make the same food packaging, a yogurt pot for example, again. Because otherwise we're just back in the situation they are in now. And this should be possible with the existing mechanical recycling opportunities we have already, and not ideally not with something new, which is not even in existence yet. So this was the second requirement. And the third requirement, this is also a very important one, is it should be thermoformable. This new material should be thermoformable like conventional PET or polypropylene or polystyrene, which, to be honest with, they are pretty much in the same process, with a couple of differences, of course, in settings and tools, etc. But looking at it, the bigger picture, it is pretty much the same process for all three of those materials. And why is this important that this new material is able to use the same process? Because you can imagine there's hundreds and hundreds of thermoformers in the market and thousands of tools in the market or in the factories producing packaging for the dairy industries. And you can't just say, okay, we are having to exchange it all and start new. This just won't work. So these are the three main requirements that we looked at. And we came up with our rPET 100. Basically, this material is designed for recycling, which is, of course, our major goal, and is made from recycled materials. So this is exactly one of those requirements that we needed. Now, what are the benefits, or what are the properties of this material? Well, we're talking about the 100 degrees C heat resistance. Yes, we have achieved that. The second big part was it is 100% recyclable, because all that's in there is natural-based mineral fillers. There is no other additives, stabilizers, or what have you required, and this makes it very easily possible to take this material and put it back into food packaging again, which might be a little bit more difficult if you would have to use softeners, stabilizers, or any other polymer additives. So only natural-based mineral fillers. Additionally to that, it is possible to use 100% recycled content in order to produce this material. So this was also one of the very, very big steps in order to break the status quo. And all this is possible while maintaining the highest packaging quality in terms of mechanical strength, so that the packaging can do what it's supposed to do, namely protect the food, and with high quality optical appearance, because in the end of the day, the consumer also needs to be finding the product appealing. So all these 4 points can be achieved with the rPET 100. Now, we said we aimed this product or this material mainly at the dairy industry, but we realized when we actually looked at it then in more detail that there is an awful lot of more applications for PET to replace existing materials in other markets. For example, hot cups for your coffee out of the vending machine, which is very often polystyrene, or the takeaway coffees would be possible to make out of rPET instead of a cardboard plastic combination which can't be recycled at all. Another big market is instant soups or instant noodles, which are very, very popular, for example, in Asia. They are selling millions of units of these instant noodles daily there. So also for this product or for this application, the material would be suitable. Also, takeaway meals for delivery services or meals on the go. Again, everything that's hot can be absolutely safely filled into this packaging. And last but not least, the fitting coffee lid for the hot cups, which again are now mostly made of polystyrene, and we probably, most of you probably know these coffee lids from the big coffee houses that are in the market. So also this is absolutely possible to be done out of this rPET 100 and hence can be recycled. Now, how do we produce this? Or how would a potential packaging manufacturer produce this rPET 100 packaging? Well, I mentioned it in the beginning, you need IV increase. Please remember, IV is responsible for the mechanical properties and decontamination of the post-consumer recycled material in order to make all this process possible. And we have the suitable machinery here in shape of our SSB, solid state polycondensation reactors. Afterwards, it would be going into a suitable rPET extrusion line. So that means, again, a purpose-built machine where you can have 100% recycled material input in the back in order to produce the sheet, which subsequently then is produced into a thermoform packaging. And you would need, or we would need, a small know-how transfer from Viscotech for fine-tuning the recipe and the material, and the thermoforming know-how that is needed in order to run this material, which is heat resistant, again, exactly or very close like standard PET, PS polypropylene. There are small modifications required, but trust me, they are really, really small. Okay, and with this, I am at the end of my presentation. Thank you very, very much for your attention. And I also would like to thank the organizers to invite us to introduce our company and give you an idea what our developments are. And if you have any questions, or if you're interested in our products, maybe please remember the CO2 study that we commissioned, as well as the rPET 100, or maybe rPET production in general, please don't hesitate to give me a ring. And with that, thank you very much and have a great day.
Thanks so much, Andreas. I hope you're here with us we are actually running late, but I did want to try to ask you one question if you're here.
I am here, one moment. I just need to, here we go.
Perfect.
Good afternoon.
Perfect. Thanks again. Also a very jealousy generating presentation. Really quickly, how is the market responding to this proposal? I mean, we have government officials here on the call, and they're very interested, for example, in the issue of fixing the takeaway problem that is non-recycled currently. How did governments and the market in general, how do they react to your
Well, first of all, well, it must be very, very confusing for everybody, yeah, because you saw now a couple of presentations where everybody says, okay, the material is 100% recyclable. I just want to emphasize that we are talking about the highest possible applications, which is the food packaging. Okay, so all that what I said is true for food packaging. How was the reaction? Well, it was we have a very, very big interest in this material from actually all the big players in the food packaging industry, mainly from trays. It's not so much in bottles, of course, because there it doesn't work so well, or we haven't tried it yet, let's put it that way. But it definitely works very well for pots, cups, and trays. And there the feedback is, yeah, very, very big.
Interesting. We'll probably have some people following up on that with you after the call.
Sorry,
yes.
Avi, very quickly, there is one question which I really would like to answer. There's like the rPET 100, is it APET or CPET? Yes. It is, it's somewhere in between. It has a certain crystallinity, but it is definitely not CPET, because CPET has mostly a lot of additives inside, which makes it difficult to recycle. So I'm shutting up now.
No, that was the question I wanted to ask. So thanks a lot for being here with us and for sending the presentation and for your time. Hope to be in touch with you after the presentation with some more questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Avi. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
have a great day.
Thanks a lot. And we are moving on to the last presentation, live presentation today. This is about a topic that is very critical in Israel, the washing part, both because of the high standards of the reused water that's needed here and high price of water in Israel. And we have with us Matthijs Veerman from Morshinkhoff. That's one of Europe's largest producers of high-grade recycled raw material. And he's the business development manager of Morshinkhoff. So Matthijs, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Can you already hear me?
Yes, we hear you and we see the presentation in draft mode.
Very good. Yes, I would like to tell you something about our company and our activities in the recycling of as well PET, HDPE, and polypropylene. So I'm Matthijs Veerman, working as a business development manager at Morshinkhoff Rimoplast.
Matthijs, if you have the option to open the camera, that would be best. If there is a problem there, yes.
Yeah, that's better. So I'm working as a business development manager at Morshinkhoff Rimoplast. We are a group of 10 plastic recycling companies in Europe with a long history, already founded in 1961 by the father of the three brothers currently managing the company. And perhaps interesting to mention is that IKEA is also a shareholder in our company at 15%, making sure, of course, that IKEA invests in sustainable businesses and moreover, of course, to secure feedstock to produce their articles out of recycled plastics. So Morshinkhoff Rimoplast Group, in principle, is a recycling company producing recycled raw material in the form of a regrind, a granulate, or a compound. And on top of that, we have started production of some end products like PET preforms, polyester yarns, and LDPE bags as well. The Morshinkhoff Rimoplast Group in total produces around 350,000 tons of recycled raw materials per year, which makes us one of the leading recycled raw materials producers in the European market. In the meantime, with more than 500 employees, and of course, I think it was mentioned in earlier presentations as well, with a strong focus to close the loops to bring recycled raw material back into the original application. To give you an impression, you will see some pictures here of the several companies that we run. I will go through that quickly, as I understood we are running a bit late in the schedule. I first would like to tell you something about recycled HDPE and recycled polypropylene that we produce, and of course also the connection with the washing process. A couple of years ago, we have started a new factory located in Heerenveen, which was actually resulting from the investment that IKEA made in our company. And the target was to produce recycled HDPE and recycled polypropylene from household packaging waste that could either be turned back into the original application, the packaging, or in the case of IKEA, to bring it back into IKEA articles. And of course, one of the big missing links in the market was that recycled HDPE and recycled polypropylene were available, but predominantly in one color only, and in most cases of a quality that was normally used for production of flower pots, for example. So not really the high-end applications. So we have started up this facility where we added color sorting on as well an article level, and of course also the cold and hot washing to make a cleaner recycled raw material and to offer it in different colors to the market. In the meantime, we are producing 15,000 tons per year there, and of course with a target to double this output on the short term. Why washing is important? Well, probably the picture as I share it here on the screen shows why there is a necessity to wash and to hot wash as well. The feedstock that we get into this factory is conforming to the so-called in Northern Europe DKR specification, which is a sorting quality which states that a bale of polypropylene or HDPE should have a 94% purity of feedstock. In other words, there can be 6% of non-polypropylene, respectively non-HDPE contamination. In polypropylene, it means mostly pots, tubs, and trays, and in HDPE, it predominantly means shampoo, milk, and detergent bottles. The washing is only one of the processing steps included. Here you see an overview of the different steps. Of course, the collection of the packaging itself, which is organized by the EPR system, including the sorting, which is also funded by the extended producer responsibility schemes. And I think Barry Bellet already told you something about the plastic sorting in the Netherlands. Where the Moschenkopf process starts is in step 3, the resorting, grinding, and washing of the post-consumer plastics, including the hot washing, the compounding, so melting the material, removing any non-melting particles, removing also the first volatiles, and then after treatment to make sure that the material has a strong reduction of odor and remaining volatiles. And of course, step 5 is conversion to end products, which is predominantly done by our end consumers. What is the importance of hot washing in HDPE and polypropylene? Of course, when you receive packaging from the market, it still contains some residual products, which can be sugary or can be fatty. The packaging still contains labels. The labels are often glued to the packaging. So you really need hot washing to dissolve the glues, which also enables labels to release. And those labels can be made out of, in the case of an HDPE bottles, out of a polyethylene, but definitely can also be produced out of different polymers that you simply want to separate in order to clean and make the recycled raw material as pure as possible. And of course, any surface contamination that would be left on a flake after cold washing could create a smell as such, and or could create a smell when it would be processed during compounding, reheated, and you simply want to avoid that. So any surface contamination that you can remove during hot wash is a big plus. And of course, any ink that remains on packaging would cause a form of discoloration of the target colors that we produce. Hot washing, of course, consists out of different elements. Hot wash, the name itself says it, it's about temperature. So at which temperature are you going to wash? With friction is needed to remove the surface contamination, glues, printing inks, And of course, you have a certain residence time to keep the material in the hot wash installation. On top of that, of course, you have a fixed recipe of cleaning agents that you add during the washing process. And of course, very important and often that is perhaps a bit underestimated in the process is the pre-treatment prior to hot wash and an after treatment after hot wash. And that after treatment is particularly of importance to remove any cleaning agents which are still connected to the surface of a flake, and that you definitely want to remove prior to putting the flake in a compounder. What results in the case of recycled HDPE from bottles are, in the case of Moschenkopf Rimoplast, 4 different grades: a natural, white, green, and blue. And these colors are purely based on the cleaning of the feedstock that I've shown on the picture a couple of slides ago. So there is no addition of colorant added to it. This is purely realized by intensive sorting and intensive washing to create high standard recycled raw materials, which are used in new bottles again by big brand owners like Beiersdorf, Unilever, Henkel, and many others. Same goes for polypropylene. We also make a color separation there into 4 different color streams, again, without any addition of colorant, purely based on the sorting of colors. And these type of recycled raw materials, you will find it back in, for example, IKEA products that you buy in stores worldwide, but also in caps and closures, for example, on cosmetic or detergent packaging. Then I would also like to tell you a bit about recycled PET. I think Andreas already told you a lot about recycled PET and the applications from a technology point of view. I will tell you a bit more from a recycling or recycler's perspective. So feedstock which is used in for production of recycled PET for bottle-to-bottle applications predominantly comes from deposit systems in Northwestern Europe, where we are in the lucky situation that we have high quality feedstock, which is 100% sorted based on bottle shape or based on barcode. And that, of course, is ideal feedstock to produce an rPET quality that goes back into food packaging. Likewise, with HDPE and polypropylene, the recycling process consists out of different steps. Collection and sorting, which is predominantly done by the deposit systems. Flake producing, including the hot wash, where I will highlight some main points in a minute. The compounding process to remove non-melting particles, to control the color of the recycled PET and to remove the volatiles. And in our case, which is slightly different to the Starlinger technology, we use a solid state post-condensation to upgrade viscosity, to control color, and to remove the final volatiles. Again, the importance of the hot washing in PET is to remove glues. Glues, of course, connect label to the bottle. You want to disconnect the label from the bottle, and in order to do that, you will have to dissolve the glue. And of course, you also want to remove sugary rest and fatty residues. And again, the combination of temperature, friction, residence time, composition of cleaning agents, and the pre and after treatment are extremely important to have an effective hot washing. What results in PET is an rPET pellet, which is used by big brand owners again for clear bottles. In this case, Coca-Cola bottles are shown in the picture. Ribena, which is a product by Suntory, a Japanese beverage company, which has been using our recycled raw material at 100% since 2008. And more recently, Lipton Ice has been starting to use green recycled PET in their green tea PET bottles. The recycled PET demand is booming in Northwestern Europe, and most likely will do so in other parts of the world as well. Therefore, we have included a new production facility in the region of Leipzig in Germany. And in the meantime, another 2 investments have been scheduled to increase the recycling capacity in in the European market. And of course, the most important part there is to make sure that we get sufficient feedstock from high quality collection and sorting systems. The last bit I wanted to inform you about is that there are alternative ways to recycle. Of course, today we are focusing on the mechanical recycling of PET, but there is also something called enhanced recycling of PET. Together with partnering companies DSM and Kumapol and a big sponsorship from Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific partners, we have been developing a technology to dissolve PET from polymer to an oligomer level to clean the dissolved PET from contaminants like a polyethylene that Andreas was referring to, colorants. Can be removed by enhanced recycling process in order to increase the availability of high quality recycled PET. This technology is a great addition to mechanical recycling, ensuring that also the more difficult to recycle plastics like the PET trays, like colored bottles, can be recycled up to a high standard again, and can be made available for production of, for example, food grade packaging. That was my presentation I wanted to share with you, and I can imagine that there might be some questions. So if there are any, please feel free.
Thanks, Matthias. If there are any questions, now is the time. I don't know how much you're familiar with the Israeli market and Israeli water prices, but what would you say about the feasibility of really adopting what you just presented to a market that's really constrained in water and that really has high standards for water discharge into the sewage system?
Of course, one of the elements in recycling is water usage, and of course we try to reduce it to a minimum. At the same time, what we mentioned was that in principle, more water means more effective cleaning of the material. Rinsing of material means more cleaning of the material. And of course, you have to use a water treatment system to increase the number of loops you can reuse the water. Quite important in a hot wash process is as well that you have a countering stream of material and water. So let's say the most dirty water is used to pre-rinse the feedstock of the material, and of course the cleanest water is used at the very end of the process to do the rinsing of the material. So let's say the clean material is going backwards in the process in comparison to the flow of materials.
And those washing machines, are they your machinery, or do you integrate other?
In most cases, the technology that we use is a combination of existing components in the market, which are fine-tuned and redesigned by ourselves to, from our perspective, make it the best technology available in the market. But of course, there are numerous producers of washing technology in the European market offering great solutions that can be implemented worldwide.
So just a last question, do you offer consulting or do you sell production lines or recycling lines?
In principle, we sell recycled raw materials, so we don't really sell production lines. Let's say if we sell production lines, we'd like to do that in combination with producing the recycled raw material at places in the world. At the moment, predominantly in Europe, but Israel and other parts of the world are definitely of interest to invest in recycling capacity with our own technology.
Understood. Great. I think we've definitely run out of time because we've been a bit late with the previous presentation. So again, if anybody wants to reach out to Matthias, we'd be happy to make the connection. Thank you, Matthias, for being patient with our being late and for your time.
Thanks for your invitation.
And we actually welcome you also to the rest of the seminar. Welcome to join tomorrow and on Thursday if you see an interesting presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And everybody, thanks again for joining us on the second day of this this webinar. We continue tomorrow with another packed day of very interesting lectures in which we will start talking about logistical and business cases, standardization and regulation. We're going to look at how consumers behave, certification, how can consumers be made to behave to improve recycling, the agricultural plastic waste sector, certification schemes, etc. So welcome tomorrow, again, 10 a.m. Israel time, 9 a.m. European time. See you soon.